This is an innate process of the earth without man getting in the way. This is where everything gets screwed up, is when we try to fuck stuff up because we think we can do things better. Let nature do what it's supposed to do. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. Today is a topic that I have been mulling over doing for quite some time, and I think now more than ever, it's becoming more and more apparent that I need to release this information. So I'll start by saying, if you want to, go ahead and grab your tin hats, because people are going to think this is conspiracy theory, and I'm going to kind of debunk why it's not a conspiracy theory. It only is if you use certain terms, certain verbiage. And so I'm going to start this off by saying, did you ever look up in the sky when you were a kid? And I'm 36 years old, so I remember back in Pittsburgh, I'd be laying in the grass in my parents' yard, and I'd just be looking up at the sky, and I would just watch beautiful clouds, cumulonimbus clouds flying by, and I'm like, oh, wow, that cloud looks like blah, blah, blah. That cloud looks like blah, 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 right? And it was one of these things that was so peaceful, it was so tranquil, and it was so natural. But then fast forward, we'll just say 20-some years, because I wasn't a baby doing that, but let's just say 25 years later, I look up in the sky, and I struggle to find a normal cloud. There are occasional days where I'm like, wow, that looks like one that I remember when I was a kid, nice and big and fluffy. But for the most part, what we're seeing are these weird cloud formations that come out of nowhere. And now, so if you called these things chemtrails, you would be called a tin hat, foil hat conspiracy theorist. But if you called it geoengineering to save the world and to save climate change, you would be deemed a hero, and you would be deemed correct. The term chemtrail is termed from when you see an airplane go by, right? There's a difference between what's known as a contrail or a condensation trail and a chemical trail that is left behind these planes. Okay, there are also normal flight patterns that you'll see in planes. Okay, they'll go east to west, north to south, maybe a little bit diagonal, but you're not going to have these weird checkerboard patterns that are now seen in the sky here. A condensation trail is a small trail that's due to the change in atmospheric pressure as the airplane is flying through the air. And if you were to just kind of measure it, you kind of squint your eyes and measure it, maybe a couple inches of like a pinch of the fingers there, and you would see, okay, there's the contrail, but as the plane is going, it never really extends more than that. If it does, it dissipates and turns into nothing, just a nice clear sky. Where people are getting shit for this or crap for this is that when you look at these planes and you see these long, extended white trails that trail behind the airplane, and then you look and it could be a perfectly beautiful sky, clear blue skies. We get that in Arizona all the time. Beautiful, beautiful weather. And then we see these planes flying in these really weird, erratic patterns. You just see them like a bunch of drunk pilots out there just fucking around in the sky. Let's spray stuff. You'll see little loop-de-loos and just some crazy stuff. And then you'll see that what would typically be termed a contrail does not dissipate. It expands. And when it expands, we start to get these superficial cloud formations. Okay, and we're used to really bright sun here. And what you actually see, and you'll learn from what I've researched here, you'll see kind of like shimmers or shimmering things happen in these clouds. And sometimes you'll have like little colorful rainbows just within the clouds. It's a reflection of heavy metals that are in those clouds. They're made from those chemical trails. So when we're differentiating here between a contrail, I'm not saying that contrails aren't real. They absolutely are. It's a normal part of the plane. Now, there's different doctors that will say, well, be careful of the contrails as well, because there is a toxic byproduct that is a carcinogen that's raining down on us. Some of it does contain some aluminum, according to some docs. They'll say that. They're labeled crazy people, but I think that it's something that we should definitely take a look at. Because when we see these things, we see our kids play outside or we go outside, we get these weird respiratory coughs. And it's not allergies, it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria. We're not spiking fevers. We just feel kind of crummy. We get these sinus infections that just keep freaking coming. Like, what the heck is going on? So this doctor's theory is that they're spraying down things on us. And why wouldn't they at this point? Because Bill Gates is dead set on depopulating the world. So it's not too far from something that could be possible. Sounds like a sci-fi movie, probably will be, and it'll desensitize us, but I digress. When we have these types of things that occur, it weakens our immune system. It leaves us more susceptible to other types of pathogens, be that fungal infections, bacterial infections, COVID infections, flu, strep, whatever it is, weakens our immune system and makes us a constant consumer for medications, surgical interventions, etc. It keeps the ball rolling in the medical field. Right, at the end of the day, we have to recognize medicine as a business. That's what it is. And its goal as a business isn't to save lives. Its goal is to make more and more every single year. Right? Because businesses want to be successful. If businesses drop, they want to look at their numbers and say, hey, how can I make these numbers increase? They're not like, great, the numbers dropped. That means more people are healthy. They don't give a shit about that. They need to then find a way to intervene so they can make more money or increase their profit in some other way. Now, when we talk about chemical trails and we talk about contrails, there is a contrast to them. Okay, so again, just in quick summary, contrail dissipates after the plane flies by. Chemical trail turns into a cloud. And I mess with my neighbor next door. I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, look up in the sky. And I guarantee you within 10, 15 minutes, that's going to be a cloud. My neighbor's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's going to be a cloud. Trust me, it's going to be a cloud. I was like, and tomorrow we're going to have some weird weather. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, 100%. I'm like, yeah, 100%. Watch. And so I come inside and fixing dinner with the wife and kids and go outside. I'm like, oh, there it is. So I text my neighbor. I'm like, hey, look outside. Check it out. Big old cloud formation. What's that doing? Blocking the sun. You're like, no, there's no way. Yes, there is. There are many different ways that climate change activists are trying to man-made manipulate our weather patterns. Okay? Everything in this world has positives and negatives. When you force, we'll just talk about medications, right? When you force the body against its will to achieve a desired outcome through medication, what happens? Other areas of the body are sacrificed. If there's a backlash, there's payback, where the body's like, stop fucking with me. And then boom, you get all these symptoms. You're like, okay, I warned you, but this is what's happening. You didn't listen to the high blood pressure. You gave me a blood pressure medication. I'm freaking inflamed over here. I got an infection in my stomach, but you chose to give me a blood pressure medication by ignoring the problem? Come on. Right? Our bodies yell at us. We're talking about Mother Nature. Right? If we look back, way back, Nikola Tesla, not Elon Musk, Nikola Tesla, look him up. The dude was absolutely freaking brilliant. The government hated him. Okay? It was JP Morgan, hated him. They made a movie about Tesla, it was The Current War. It was a decent movie, but they made Tesla look like an idiot. Tesla was used and abused his entire life. Came over as an immigrant, got, established his U.S. citizenship, and was trying to give basically free energy to everybody. Then people got pissed off because they couldn't monetize it because it was free. He made the first UFO by doing magnetic poles and made this whole device. And then he had a weather-changing device. The U.S. burnt down his lab a couple times and stole his documents. Right? And then when Tesla passed, they were basically like, oh, poor crazy guy. He was always crazy. Fast forward it. Let me pull out this data here real quick. We used it in a war. Okay? We used it as a weapon. So what they did was they basically went into, I forget what country it was. I'm trying to figure this out right now. But they went into a country and were basically like, all right, let's deploy this weather changing thing. And let's see ultimately what happens. Right? And so they did this and they were able to change the weather patterns and bring thunderstorms and all that stuff. And it would throw off the opposing force. And then the U.S. military would go in and be able to conquer. Where the hell did that technology come from? It was Tesla's stuff. The government has been denying it for quite some time. We see HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. They're a portion of this too, with this whole geoengineering thing. And the whole push behind it is the climate. Right? And we're as man, as people, as humanity, we're doing some pretty stupid stuff. Okay? But what we're doing is trying to force Mother Nature against its will to do something. right? Where they are trying to block out the sun. Okay, but the sun is necessary. We need it, plants need it. It's a normal part of the recirculation of water into clouds, into rain. It's a normal part of the ecosystem. And then man's like, I can do it better, and then goes and screws it all up. And then Mother Nature gets pissed. And we're seeing these crazy weather patterns. And you're like, oh, it's climate change. No, it's because you won't stop messing with Mother Nature. Okay, there's an example way back when, right? I'm a firm believer God created this earth, and whether you like that or not, that belief, if you believe it's a higher power, that's fine. Something created this thing, okay? And a lot of it we don't understand, and I think a lot of it we should not even try to understand, because our innate ego wants to try to make, change, and improve upon God's design. I think that's the stupidest thing you could possibly do, okay? From the chemtrails and what they're doing, okay, they deployed it in military strategy. They're deploying it on us. And again, they're trying to deny it tooth and nail, saying, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. Chemtrails, conspiracy theory, it's bullshit, it's bullshit, it's bullshit. But then you can look out and you can see the exact thing that's happening. Okay, you can tell predictable weather patterns. I can be a meteorologist at this point where I can look out in the sky and say, it's going to be cold tomorrow. Why? It's going to be partly cloudy. Why? Because I saw them checkerboard the skies. And boom, next day, ton of cloud coverage. Whether we have rain or not, we don't really get rain from these clouds. But again, you're mixing heavy metals into these clouds. And if they do condensate, they do acquire enough moisture, then it's going to rain down that stuff into our land. And we're going to have more acidic rain due to toxins that were sprayed into the atmosphere. So as a whole, we're being poisoned time and time again. Okay? So let's go into this a little bit more. All right, I pulled up a ton of research. It's very, very easy. Okay? Again, if you look up chemtrails, Google will block you out. DuckDuckGo doesn't even like to acknowledge chemtrails, so I don't know how pure of a site they are there. And it's not to say that these things aren't real. Again, just open your eyes and look up. Right? There's a movie called Look Up. So climate engineering. So what is this? Climate engineering is when there is both carbon dioxide removal, solar radiation management, called solar geoengineering, when applied to a planetary scale. However, they have different geophysical characteristics, which is why some organization, IPCC, no longer uses the overarching term. I'm like, okay, let's dig deeper. What is geoengineering? So you can have solar radiation management. Okay, you can have carbon dioxide removal. Next one is, what is it? Weather modification. But we don't mess with the weather. We just have this thing, geoengineering is called weather modification. Let's see if we can squeak that one out. This is something you're able to find for now. Or they seek to intervene in planetary ecosystem with the land, air, and water, which is what we should do, which is what I'll go into, because I'm not just going to doom and gloom us here today. I'm going to give us usable things that we could do as humans, as individuals, to make sure that this stuff doesn't keep happening. Okay? Because, again, we're all about reducing the carbon footprint. I'm here to say let's do it, but there's a smart way to do it, and Bill Gates is not the smart man to do it. Okay? So what do? This stuff, I promise you, is going to sound ridiculously sci-fi. And I remember my dad is huge with this too, where I'm like, I'll watch movies, I'll get pissed off, and I'll text my dad. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I know that they're desensitizing. I was like, this is ridiculous. And he'll be like, watch the, was it 1984 or 1934, George Orwell, I think. I don't know. There's a movie made way back in the day. I haven't been able to physically watch it because it's just really bad quality. But he talks about this stuff, and there's been so much of this kind of prophesized from the past being a part of what our future is going to look like. Okay, so let's go into this. So we can have space mirrors. Space mirrors. That is a legitimate thing. And I think space balls, where they have the vacuum cleaner up in the air and they're trying to suck all the air up so that they can sell it back to us. And Mel Brooks is huffing air at his desk. If you haven't watched that movie, it's hilarious if you can get past Pizza the Hut. Megan, I'm sorry you don't really like that movie because of Pizza the Hut, but it's still funny. It's Mel Brooks. Anyways, so what they want to do is have orbiting mirrors around the Earth that deflect the natural sunlight. Let that sit for a second. The problem is coming from us, right? From us in the Earth doing stupid shit. Man's intervention is, well, if we put these giant space mirrors out there, we'll block God's given sunlight. And so what's that going to do from just a mental standpoint, right? It's going to block vitamin D with us, right? So it's going to block that hormone there, that vitamin. It's going to block that. Our immune system is going to be weak. And what else is going to happen? We're not going to have proper health. We're going to have that seasonal depression. And then again, we're going to have some crazy ass weather patterns because we need to. Everything goes in the ebbs and flows of the earth, the moon, the sun, all of that. All right. The tides go with the circadian rhythms. Everything is intimately connected. And man's like, let's just fucking stop that. Let's stop sunlight. Forget about it. Pretend it's not there. We're going to block it. Right. So then there's some flaws with that. And it's like, well, what are the flaws? And it's like, I don't know. We don't really know what it's going to do. It's just some dumbass in a lab is like, hey, let's put fucking mirrors out there and block the sunlight. But we're conspiracy theorists talking about you blocking the sun. You're the one throwing mirrors out into space trying to block sunlight. Come on. Next one, artificial trees. Okay. This one doesn't sound too bad, right? So artificial trees, what they'll do is they'll basically suck in CO2 and then basically refilter it out. So we're basically put in artificial trees to do what trees are supposed to do. Doesn't really make sense, but if you want to throw out filters randomly in there, as long as they're non-toxic filters and you're able to filter out the CO2, I really don't have a problem with that. But what they're saying is basically they need a large geological location. So we need a lot of land to be able to put these things up so that we could do it. So what's that mean? Can't even say it with a straight face. Let's deforest. Let's take out trees and let's replace them with artificial trees, right? Let's get rid of what God put on this earth to help us filter the carbon dioxide and give us oxygen. And let's just go ahead and throw some man-made device in here because we could probably do it better, right? It continues. Biochar is another one, okay? And you can find these charts all over the place. If you type in types of geoengineering, you'll get like this little schematic where you'll see like the land, the ocean, the air. You'll have like a fucking plane going across the sky with a chemtrail coming out of it. And chemtrails aren't real. But anyway, so you can look this stuff up, but biochar is another thing. So that's agricultural carbon waste. Okay, so carbon waste from agricultural sources being burned and then buried. I don't really understand the concept behind that one, but that's another one that says we need a large area of land. Every time I hear large area of land, I think two things, trees and regenerative agriculture. Why are we not doing that? Okay, why? Moving on. Ocean fertilization. Doesn't sound right. So iron fillings, it stimulates CO2 eating plankton. So there's little plankton, little guys, little buggies in the water. And what they're going to do is basically eat the CO2 from the water. Flaw, nobody really knows anything about this. Some guy was like, let's make this plankton filter the CO2 better. How about that? Okay, moving on. It gets crazier. Reflective crops. Okay, so planting crops that reflect more sunlight. Planting crops that reflect more sunlight. Now, I'm not a farmer. I'm not an agriculturalist. But when I think about plants reflecting sunlight, to me, and if you're listening to this podcast and you know more about it, I'd love to have you on for this topic. Honestly, if somebody knows more on this topic, reach out to me. DM me on Instagram. I'd love to interview you on this because I'm super interested in this stuff because I'm interested in where we're going into the future. For crops to be reflective, it doesn't make sense, okay? Because when we think about plants, we think about the environment, we think about all these things. We know that plants need to absorb sunlight through their green leaves, right? There's chlorophyll and things in those leaves that help those plants to be able to grow and survive. It's one of the things I struggle with where I put my little garden. It gets really good sunlight, but there are days where my wall that I have right there blocks some of the sunlight. And so we have some shadow that goes over it. And on those days, it wilts a little bit, right? On the days that it can absorb the sunlight, they grow. I don't know how a plant can reflect it. The only thing that I'm thinking of is this is an artificial plant that they'll put in there that somehow will like act like a space mirror and bounce the sunlight back up so that we don't need it. And to me, I just thought of this as I'm going through it. Well, what happens if we got these giant beams of shiny light that are going up in the air and you are in an airplane and these pilots are having to navigate through, these giant beams of light? Like, it's probably going to be annoying, especially especially out here in the Southwest where it's supposed to be sunny all the time. Okay. Flaws, again, need large areas of land. And then it fails to prevent acidic oceans. So a lot of this stuff, if it's not touching in on the ocean, the big fears is it's not going to prevent the oceans becoming acidic. Okay. So again, we're doing all these things to try to block nature instead of fixing nature. It doesn't make sense. It is exactly medicine for the environment. Don't fix the cause. Let's fix the symptom. Let's block this and try to pretend this is going to make it worse while we still continue to do the same thing that made us sick to freaking begin with. And let's go into electric cars. Let's go into vegan food, which is actually worse for the environment. Okay, do actual research on that. Being vegan is more harmful to the environment than being a carnivore. Driving a green car is more harmful to the environment than driving a gas guzzler. Okay, as we're looking at Ford Broncos. Anybody has a wild Trek Ford Bronco, let me know. Anyways, next, so moving from reflective crops, we have aerosols. Aerosols. What are aerosols? It's not hairspray, but it's kind of like hairspray. This is where I spent a lot of time doing research because this is your chemical trails that they refuse to admit as truth. All right. I should have grabbed some aluminum foil and made a hat for this episode. It would have been more funny. Maybe next time. So aerosols. Okay. So particles in the stratosphere, so up in the sky, that reflect the sun's rays. Okay, so this is, again, if you look at this picture, this is the one where the plane's going by. It looks like this cloud of like dark brown dirt is being shot out the back end because it's freaking toxic. It's being shot out the back end of an airplane. That's what you're seeing checkerboarding the entire sky. Okay, flaw. Risk of ozone depletion. Okay, so it can further deplete the ozone, which is what we're trying to not do. Unknown weather effects, and it also fails to prevent acidic oceans. So the one that you're seeing most often is also the one with the most risks, right? Because the greenhouse gases reduces the ozone layer. And so that's the big fear is if we reduce the ozone layer, then we have more of the sunlight that comes down, burns us up, we all freaking die, okay? Which I don't believe is true because I believe in the innate intelligence of the world. This is what I forgot to mention. Pause for a second. There was a study that was done. Okay, and what's happening is, I believe it's wolves. Wolves are being overhunted in a certain area. Okay, and I could look at, this is a true story. I almost went into a Joe Biden impersonation. I'm not going to do it. Still not going to do it. Wolves were being depopulated, right? They were being killed at record rates. And so these scientists were studying them like, oh crap, these wolves are dying at record rates. If we keep this up, they are going to become extinct. But they kept studying them and kept studying them. They found out that when the wolf population realized that their population was dropping, the rate of fertility went up, their rate of babies went up, and then they were able to repopulate themselves due to the demand that was necessary for the earth, right? This is an innate process of the earth without man getting in the way. This is where everything gets screwed up, is when we try to fuck stuff up because we think we can do things better. Let nature do what it's supposed to do. Okay? If we have hotter temperatures, guess what that is going to do? From a fundamental, I still remember this from biology class from back when I was a kid, right? When the Earth's temperature heats up, what happens? The water that is in the soil and in the oceans will condensate. That condensation will then create natural cloud formations. What do natural cloud formations do? They block the sunlight. You get a partly cloudy or a cloudy day. And then over time, what happens? The soil is then rehydrated and rewatered because energy is neither created nor destroyed. So you recycle this stuff time and time again. If we just get the hell out of the way and we're worried about the earth heating up, then yeah, we may have more cloudy days, but the earth will take care of itself by rewatering itself with the water that was there. It's not like water just randomly evaporates. It goes out into space. We're like, shit, we ran out of water, right? That's not how things happen, okay? Or even where like the polar ice caps are melting. Well, that's possible, but is that the innate intelligence of the earth saying, well, if we're running out of water, we need more water down here, we're going to melt these ice caps to be able to provide more water for everybody else in the surrounding world. Don't worry about the animals. They'll be just fine. Recirculate that water, bring it on down. I think it might be a part of the innate intelligence of the earth, but I also think it's in compensation for what man is trying to do to the earth, which is stupid. We're stupid, man. We're stupid. And I'm not saying just men. I'm saying man, women, whoever these scientists are, our humanity within us is the decline of us as a civilization, in my opinion. Moving on, okay? There was a study done by CNBC October 13th last year, 2022. Okay, White House is pushing ahead to research to cool the Earth by reflecting back sunlight. So again, more information on this, and the rest of this portion is all pulled from this particular article. Stratospheric aerosol injection would involve flying aircraft into the stratosphere or between 10 to 30 miles skyward and spraying a fine mist that would hang in the air, reflecting some of the sun's radiation back into space. Does that not sound like weather modification? Does that not sound like a chemtrail? Yes, it does. There are significant and well-known risks to these techniques, sulfur dioxide aerosol injections in particular. Spraying sulfur into the atmosphere will, quote unquote, mess with the ozone chemistry in a way that may delay the recovery of the ozone layer, some guy named Parson told CNBC. Also, sulfates injected into the atmosphere eventually come down as acid rain. So what was the main thing? You're like, oh, well, it doesn't prevent acidic oceans. We're creating acid rain. What does that do? It's going to affect the soil. It's going to affect the water. It's going to affect the ecosystems. The crops are going to be bad. We drink that stuff. We're getting hit with rain with that. So if you want to catch a snowflake on your tongue, you're going to get an acidic snowflake. This is real stuff that they're still fucking doing right now. Right fucking now. They're doing that right now with all of these, and they've been doing it for years. That's the other thing. This isn't new. They've been doing this since the 80s. Okay, at least since the 80s. They've been fucking with the atmosphere. And if they haven't got it right now, what makes you think that another 40 years they're going to get it right? We are worse now than when they started. And it's not because of man-made revolution, of all that stuff that we've created. Doesn't freaking help. But the techniques are not ones that are going to work. Not now, not ever. Continuing on. Damaging the ozone is bad. Acid deposition is bad. Respiratory illness. Chem flu. Is bad. CNBC is reporting this. Not me. CNBC. All right, let me take my imaginary tinfoil hat off. Some liberal trusted news source is telling you, oh yeah, that's not great for our respiratory tract, right? What other damages our respiratory tract? COVID. That's interesting. Spraying sulfur into the atmosphere will contribute to a bad direction of all of those effects. So, bad direction for the ozone layer, acid deposition, respiratory illness, and spraying sulfur dioxide in the air is going to make all of those things worse. And their justification is worse relative to what? Because what they're trying to claim is that if we don't do this, we're all fucking dead. That's what they want to tell us. That is not true. It is not true. If we keep doing what they're doing, yes, we're screwed. But if we start to realize what actually helps, and you'll see the Bill Gates effect of this when we get down to the bottom of it, but you'll see what really truly needs to happen. All right, I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit longer of a podcast here, but I'm telling you, this information is amazing, okay? The other thing that they throw out into the air, too, according to some other studies, is besides the sulfur, they throw in aluminum oxide. Aluminum. What's aluminum good for? It's a heavy metal. It's a heavy metal toxicity. Will damage our immune system, weaken our immune system, cause cancer. What else do they have? They have cloud seeding. Okay, so cloud seeding is when they, atomizing seawater to create clouds to reflect the sun's rays. Flaw, unknown weather effects, patchy success, again, fails to prevent acidic oceans. There's another one where it's a carbonate additive. So ground limestone helps the ocean to absorb CO2. Same thing, nobody knows what's going to happen to the actual ecosystem. So all of these things that they have been studying for many, many years, all of them have negative effects, but the worst one is the one that they do most regularly, which is spraying the chemicals up into the sky with aerosols to try to block the sun's rays. Okay? Now, when I looked up, I'm like, what causes the climate change, right? So we have methane, and one of my really good friends, Dr. Eric Landy, he does what I do too, a lot of functional medicine, naturopathic stuff, but we were talking about his kid coming back from school. And so school is trying to push the envelope of we shouldn't eat cows. We shouldn't, again, it's ridiculous. Shouldn't eat cows because a cow's burp is the equivalent to your use of a car in a given day or something. I'm paraphrasing that, but basically that's what it was. So like, they're like, well, stop eating and just supporting beef, eat vegetarian, eat vegan. And then they said, eat bugs instead. Eat bugs, right? Because that's where they awkwardly want us to go, which I think they're going to tamper with that too. But anyways, so methane, right? There's a nitric oxide or nitrous oxide as well. But then I started getting into these other things. And when I started seeing abbreviations of HFCs, CFCs, and PFCs, I'm like, well, this is obviously going to be man-made. So what the hell are these things? All right. So what's happening is methane is a more natural source. The HFC is a man-made chemical that we use through air conditionings, aerosols, fire extinguishers, foam, and spray foam. Okay. Chlorofluorocarbons, man-made again, air conditioning, refrigerants, insulations, packing foams, etc. PFCs, this is one of the worst ones. And we actually found in research that there's no way to detox this crap out of your body, so you're screwed. So this is non-stick cookware, right? Your Teflon, grease-resistant stuff, fast food containers, takeout containers, and coated paper products, shampoos, dental floss, nail polish, eye makeup, stain-resistant carpet, upholstery, and other fabrics. And just out of curiosity, if this is the worst one and one of the worst exposures to the ozone and climate change, why has nobody called to overhaul fast food, shampoos, like the Environmental Agency, Protection Agency should be going after these things and saying, hey guys, your products are garbage. Not only are they garbage, they're harmful to the people and they're also harmful for the environment. But not once did they make mention of any of that stuff. Instead, they just keep pushing it down our damn throats. Okay? So currently, again, there's no definitive medical procedure that helps to clear the PFAs out of the body. Okay? And so the best step you can take is remove the source of exposure from the environment, and therefore you don't get any more of that. So I'm like, oh shit, if we have all these PFAs, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Application here, buy yourself either a Berkey water filter. Okay, I'm not affiliated with Berkey. I've got one. I promote them because they're fantastic. I'm not popular enough yet for me to be affiliated with them. But Berkey works really, really well at detoxing those PFOAs, PFOs, and other types of PFAs, getting all that stuff out of the body. And then reverse osmosis water systems for the house also helps to pull this stuff out of our drinking water. Okay, not only that, but there's pharmaceuticals and other types of petrol-based supplements, medications, and things that we're going to drink as well, whether it's antidepressants or birth control. To be honest, I don't really want to be on birth control, so I make sure I filter every single ounce of water that we have coming into this house. Okay. So I wanted to pull up the history on this stuff. And so I'm going to read some things kind of verbatim from what I pulled here. So history in some form of geoengineering, also known as weather modification, okay, it says not to be confused with chemical conspiracies, have a long controversial history dating back to the 1940s when weather was a weapon. So I apologize on my time frame. This has been going on since the 40s. So 83 years or so, they've been fucking with the weather. And this is when they use it. They started a weather campaign with the military. There's an ugly side to this. It is known that the military has long held the power to make it rain, increase storms, seed clouds, control mudslides, flooding, earthquakes, volcanoes, and more. Let me read that again. It is known that the military has long held the power to make rain, increase storms, seed clouds, cause mudslides, flooding, earthquakes, volcanoes, and more. What have we been having more of the past couple years? Any thought to this? Operation Popeye was an example where they created storms in Vietnam to ruin the enemy. Okay, there are tiny bits of crushed up silver iodide and crystal-like photosensitive substances that they use as well. The most common chemicals used for the cloud seeding is silver iodide and potassium iodide and dry ice. Liquid propane, which expands into a gas, has also been used. These chemicals theoretically fall back down to the earth in the ensuing precipitation. So they spray chemicals out into the air in the form of a vapor trail, and it rains on us. Is that not a chemical trail by the actual literal definition? Okay? So far, there's little evidence to show that the process is actually increasing precipitation. Worse, still, the studies are showing that these substances may be harmful to bees, pollinators, and other forms of life. Now, we're going to get to a point where all this is going to lead to regenerative agriculture and me trying to push everybody to have your own little farms, your own little gardens, and start to plant flowers that have pollinations to them so that we can work with the bee populations to help to pollinate life. For those of you who don't know, we need pollination for a lot of our plants in order for them to grow. Without plants, we no longer have our natural CO2 filters that we have built into the earth. Okay, so what they're doing is ruining nature's ability to detox the CO2, which would then in turn reduce our carbon footprint. Are we seeing a pattern yet, Bill Gates? You freaking idiot. Anyways, moving on. The silver ion is one of the most toxic heavy metal ions, particularly microorganisms and to fish. Interest in cloud seeding is growing as temperatures steadily rise, increasing drought risks in places like the Mountain West. But there's a catch. Scientists aren't sure how well cloud seeding works today, let alone in a warmer climate. And again, the whole method is a gamble. Now, this is something super cool. I didn't know that this existed. I freaking love them because they're fighting this, because I'm like, we got to stop this stuff. I posted so many times on Instagram, like, we got to stop it. We got to stop it. I've never seen more chemtrails in the sky in my life until Biden got into administration. This is one of the main things I think he needs to fucking stop. You need to stop this crap. Anyways, Indigenous Environmental Network, or the IEN, is calling for a ban on all of it. Okay, there's a Scope X project in Tucson, Arizona, which proposes to inject sulfate particles and other materials in the atmosphere to test their effectiveness at blocking the sun. ICE 9/11 project in Alaska, which would scatter millions of tiny glass bubbles over Arctic ice to slow melting and reflect sunlight. The Marine Cloud Brightening Project in Monterey Bay, California, would inject salt water into the clouds to whiten them and reflect sunlight. And then the Oceus Ocean Fertilization Project is down in Chile. Okay, they're trying to, the IEN is trying to ban all these, and I need to figure out if there's a way that I can donate to these guys to help. But at least somebody with an organization is trying to battle these freaking morons. Right? Because it's the definition of insanity. You've been doing this for like 80 years, right? Since the 40s or 60, like 83 years, like a person's lifetime, and you're still screwing it up. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. How stupid are you? Really? I'm asking, like, how stupid are these people? And how stupid are they to think that we're not going to catch on to this? And this is why I'm doing this podcast. This stuff drives me freaking insane. Because we're seeing more and more of these upper respiratory patterns, these chemtrail flus, these issues where people are just fucking getting sick for no reason. There's no viral exposure. People are in their homes. They come outside, come back inside, and within 10 minutes, they got a freaking respiratory cough. Why? It's not pollen. Okay, it's not pollination. It's not that. It's because we're spraying this crap into the sky. What do I call for resolution? One, support the IEN. I'm going to look into them a little bit more. Hopefully they're not a corrupt organization. I don't know yet. I just learned about them. Okay? Solutions, grow your own food. Okay? Simply stated, this is something that Biden should have talked about from the very beginning of his fucking presidency. Even Trump, even presidents should be talking about this, right? We did, I think it was like sharecropping. I think it was during like World War II or something. They told everybody to make their own garden. I forget what that was called, but make your own freaking garden. Why? One, you can guarantee it's organic. You have organic food. You're able to eat it. It's much healthier than what you're going to buy in the grocery store. Plus, you're reducing shipping costs, right? If it's coming from Mexico, some other portion of the country, you're reducing the carbon footprint by putting that food on a truck with probably laden with pesticides and things that are going to come to your doorstep. Versus if you have a strawberry bush out there, which we have, it's growing, it's beautiful. You can go out there, pick your own, and you'll see it looks completely different than what you're going to find in the grocery store. Not to mention what you're buying in the grocery store now molds within like 2 minutes. It's ridiculous. Buy your own stuff, okay? Not only that, but working and tilling the soil is also a natural way to reduce our carbon footprint. Again, working into regenerative agriculture, right? Organic regenerative agriculture, not conventional crap. Organic regenerative agriculture. What are they trying to stop? Organic regenerative agriculture. Does this make sense? It shouldn't. It should make you mad. Support these guys. Support your farmers because they're trying to destroy these guys. Okay, whether it's burning their farms down or ruining the soil. I mean, you can poison the soil with this acid rain and you won't be able to grow the crops. Right? Monsanto's already made genetically modified seeds. You put the pesticide on, it blossoms. You're like, oh, great, look, oh, it's drought resistant. Huh. Wonder why they did that. Right? So regenerative agriculture is huge with this. Okay, you have predictable organic food. Work from home is another solution, right? So ever since COVID, a lot of people are and have the ability to work from home. Just that by itself should have already reduced our carbon footprint quite a bit because we're not driving around as much as we had in the past. Now, the suggestion is if you're going to be going out, organize your day, right? If you're going to go out in one drive, right? Unless you're bringing the kids back and forth, then time stuff on the way there and back. So you're not going 4 or 5 times out from the house, driving your car around, coming back. Otherwise, you're going to, again, release more carbon dioxide, carbon emissions out into the air. Therefore, you can contribute to more of a carbon footprint, okay? Plant trees. This is ridiculous to even think that I have to say this, but plant trees, okay? Stop burning down trees, plant trees. So that way we can stop producing new homes. This is another one too. And Megan beautifully stated this. Why are we so quick to just smash homes into a small plot of land? One, there's a lot of building costs on that. Two, there's less soil left over. So even if you wanted to start a garden, it's very difficult to do that because it's just all rock, at least here, it's all rock and garbage here. Nobody really has a big plot of land. Why don't you instead say, okay, this particular city needs, I think they call it gentrify. They basically come in like they did in Lawrenceville and Pittsburgh. They renovated all these restaurants, renovated all these new spaces. Instead of knocking stuff down and building again, they made old things better. So you can do the same thing. We're not taking up more land. We're making new good things out of old bad things or things that may have been, breaking down. Even if you knock down the property itself, at least you're building upon that property that was already pre-existing. You're not land clearing to make another home. Okay, and I'm not trying to be like a hippy dippy over here. I'm saying this just makes sense, right? So instead of building 300 homes north of me, why don't you go and try to find some other areas where the homes are kind of run down, pour money into those areas and renovate them? It just makes more sense, okay? Land preservation is another thing. All right, we're looking to get some acreage up north. There's state trust land. We need to do a better job of preserving our land. Stop blasting through our mountains in Arizona. Stop trying to find ways to put homes in areas that are not habitable for homes. If you need to bring more soil in to make a flat surface because you built on a freaking hill or built on a mountain, maybe you shouldn't have put a home there. Just a thought, just an idea. Okay, and the last one is what I talk about all the time. It's the regenerative agriculture. Okay, so I'm pulling a quote here. So soil carbon sequestration through regenerative agriculture is a known, proven technique and remedy to global warming. It gives humanity the necessary time to decarbonize. By investing in multiple global farming system trials, we can both provide the needed data to support widespread transition, directly work towards that transition through incubating skills and providing a global network on the ground for farmers to lead the evolution to regenerative systems. So again, this is something that has been tried and true. I probably butchered that quote there, but basically what it says is regenerative agriculture is a tried and true method to reduce our carbon footprint. And instead what's happening is we're going towards conventionally raised food because we're all fat and overweight now. So we have a high demand for food. But if we just took over those conventionally raised spots and said, hey, from now on, we got to remineralize the soil, get rid of all the glyphosate, which Lord knows, who knows how fucking long it's going to take to get the glyphosate out of the soil, but pump money into the organic farms so that it can do regenerative agriculture, have the cattle till the land. So you're so pissed off. These climate activists are so pissed off about beef and cattle and meat and how dare they. But yet when they use them for what they were designed for, they till the land, they poop on the soil, they mix it in, and that whole process of all of that, just natural farming, naturally reduces our carbon footprint. And government's suggestion is, fuck those guys. Let's go and make a vegan plant. Let's go pump a whole bunch and use a whole bunch of gas and crap to try to make this patty taste like a burger made out of garbage materials and rancid, toxic plant oils. Right? So what do we do here? What is the message with this? Guys, we need to do something. And I'm not, again, trying to be a climate activist or anything. We need to do something and that we need to be speaking up. We need to be aware of these things. Right? I work with a lot of patients that are aware of this, but I work with patients whose spouses are like, you're fucking crazy. There's no way. There's no way that they're doing this. So yes, they are. And they have been. They've had the technology since the 40s. So the more we're aware of this, the more we can try to protect ourselves, prevent ourselves from becoming sick. So again, if you're listening to this podcast and you're following me on Instagram, you've been seeing that I'm trying my best to build a garden here. I'm going to be getting some acreage up north. I'm going to be building an even bigger garden up there. Maybe get some cattle, maybe get some things to also help to reduce carbon footprint emissions just on my own soil. Okay. The other things too with this is make sure, so we got the garden. We talked about working from home if you can. Organize your day that you're trying to just do as minimal trips out as you can, or just designate one day a week that's like your errand day, and you just basically pop out and do all your errands in that given day. Okay. Other things you can do too is look into the IEN here, the Indigenous Environmental Network, the IEN. Look into them, see if they're a good organization to donate to, because they're already kind of footing the bill to try to attack some of these projects to get it to stop. Other things you can do, reverse osmosis water. You get a Berkey water filter, so you're trying to do those things. To me, we have natural detoxification pathways in our bodies. I do have a detox kit that if you are interested in, again, just DM me on Instagram. And you can pop on our little Kajabi list and I can send you a discount code and all that stuff to get 20% off of that kit that I have. But we just want to make sure that our liver is good, our digestion is good, our body is naturally able to detox some of these things. Now, some of it's like we don't know if we can get out of our body, but at the very least, we don't want to accumulate other toxins within our world, within our life. So eat clean, drink clean, be clean, move our bodies, get outside when we can, and just protect yourselves as best you can. We don't know what our future has in store for us, but these little things that we can do, whether it's the knowledge or the know-how to build a garden. If you have questions on building a garden, I'm doing it in Arizona, which is really difficult from what I hear, but I'm doing a decent job of it. It's not that difficult. It cost me maybe $300 to get my whole setup done. Organic soil, organic seeds, organic plants. They're everywhere. I got a bunch of pollination plants too. I got some trees. I need to buy another plum tree to pollinate the other. I'm trying to get some bees in here, trying to get some hummingbirds, trying to help with pollination, trying to help with plant recreation in our world. So longer podcast here today. I appreciate you if you listen the whole way through. If you had to cut it down into 3 different versions, that's fine. But make sure that you really sit down and take this information. And this may be one that you listen to 2-3 times. But if you do, again, be sure to jump on, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Give me a 5-star review and write something in there that's beneficial. I'd love to hear your feedback. And again, I love and appreciate y'all for tuning in every single week when I release these things. And if you have topics as usual, find me on Instagram. I'm happy to do it for you. Take care and have a blessed day.